Did Clash Mini kill itself with the most recent update? We have a lot to talk about. Anyone who's been paying attention to Clash Mini the past couple of weeks will know that the most recent update wasn't exactly the most popular. OJ actually released a video saying he doesn't think the game's gonna go global. Normally, I'm pretty quick to release my 100% honest update review videos, but I really wanted to just pay attention, take a step back, play through everything myself so that I could formulate my opinions, and I am really glad that I did. I've spent a lot of time researching the most recent update so that I can honestly tell you whether or not Clash Mini is one step closer to global or one step closer to getting killed. This video is going to start off with some things the team might not necessarily want to hear, but please trust that I will also give you credit where I feel like you deserve it. Just remember that this is just because I love the game and I really want it to go global. Let's start off with the number one biggest mistake that happened in this update. They broke what I consider to be the number one most important rule to making a game free-to-play friendly. And that rule is that every single piece of content should be accessible to complete non-spenders eventually, with enough patience and dedication, okay? I'm not saying that free-to-play players should be able to unlock absolutely every skin or even most of them, but if there's one specific thing that they want to unlock, whether it's even a time-limited event or something like that, or a cosmetic or a new hero or something like that, they should be able to unlock it with enough hard work and patience, even if that means that they have to sacrifice some progression to do so. Now, I know this is kind of strong for me to say this, but if free-to-play players don't at least have access to every bit of content in the game some way, with enough hard work, with enough dedication, with enough time or patience, the game is not friendly for free-to-play players, in my opinion. I know that some game developers would disagree with that, and look, I'm not going to pretend to be a game developer, but I do watch GDC talks, Game Development Conference talks, and have subscribed to a lot of YouTube channels that specifically talk about game design. And I'm not saying that they're more experts than the Clash Mini team or anything like that, but I've really come to believe that the best way to build a free-to-play friendly game is to make it so that everything is accessible to everybody, but then the big spenders really get to show off. We've got more to cover, but I want to give a big thank you to Raid Shadow Legends for sponsoring this video. Raid Shadow Legends is a turn-based MMO for mobile and PC that over 80 million people are playing. Click the link in the description below to join this massive community. Now, Raid Shadow Legends recently celebrated their 4th year anniversary last month, and they're giving away a ton of rewards for all players. From now until May 15th, there's an Easter egg promo going on where you actually search for dragon eggs, and anyone that finds these eggs will have a chance to win some huge prizes like a legendary champion or even an Amazon gift card. In fact, they're giving over $20,000 worth of Amazon gift cards away through this event. Existing Raid players can also join on the egg select fun as well. So go to egghunt.polarium.com and you'll find a special promo code that everyone can use to earn a small gift in game. Now guys, Raid Shadow Legends recently asked me a very important question, a question all of you have been dying to know. Which 4 champions would I personally invite to a 4-year anniversary dinner party? Rhodos the Lost Groom, well, he's already dressed like he's on his way to a dinner party, so that's an easy one. Herndig basically wields a giant meat tenderizer, which would be very helpful for preparing the food. Now, I'm a big fan of ice cream, and no doubt that Glycia would bring the best icy dessert you can find. And finally, we got Coronar. He's the most scary and would very much be intimidating if he was jealous that he didn't get invited. There's a lot of stuff happening right now, and with updates every single month, you're never going to run out of fun stuff to do in the game. So click that link below to download Raid Shadow Legends, and if you do use my link, you'll instantly receive the epic champion, Knight Errant, and other resources worth $30. Once again, a huge thank you to Raid Shadow Legends for sponsoring this video. In fact, without sponsors, I actually lose money on every Clash Mini video, so this really goes a long way in helping produce content for this channel. This honestly is just good game design in my opinion. It allows the free-to-play players to really feel like, hey, you know what? I am a part of this community. The developers do care about me, and it really gives them something to work toward when it comes to something that they really want, like a special cosmetic or something. And the really unfortunate thing is that the Clash Mini team did break that rule this update. They also removed free gems from the free side of the mini pass, which means that complete non-spenders have no way to purchase certain cosmetics in the game. Now, I'm not actually 100% against that, actually. I'm okay with them removing free-to-play gems from the game, as long as everything can somehow be unlocked eventually by non-spending players. Honestly, before this most recent update, there were too many free gems. It was way too easy for players to collect gems, and it kind of diminished the value of gems being somewhat of a premium currency. That being said, adding a few free gems into the pass and making every cosmetic eventually cost gems would be a very simple way to allow non-spenders to have access to premium pieces of content in in the game. Whether they do that or not, that's totally a decision for themselves, but I really strongly believe that they need to make sure that every piece of content is accessible for non-spenders, or honestly, I just won't be able to recommend Clash Mini as a free-to-play friendly game. I won't. I just can't. There are so many games out there that are so friendly to free-to-play players. If I've got somebody who's too young or doesn't have money or too poor or whatever, that they just can't afford to spend money on a game, I'm just not going to recommend Clash Mini if there's a specific cosmetic that they just cannot get, ever. With the exception of like time-limited events and stuff like that. That makes sense. I'm not even saying that free-to-play players should necessarily even be able to have the premium skins or whatever as soon as they're released, but eventually I think they need to be able to. Okay, I've talked about this enough. I'm gonna move on to the next topic, and that's in-app purchases, baby. Oh boy. It's funny because in this update, they made gems the premium currency that you cannot get for free. You have to spend money to get them, but then on top of that, they added in-app purchases instead of like gem costs. So there are skins that you could not buy with gems. You could only buy them for doing another in-app purchase. And as an actual spender, and what many people would consider to be a whale, right? Like I spend a lot more money on games than most people do. It honestly, it feels really just annoying. It's backwards and frustrating. Like, what's the point of buying gems if I'm gonna have to buy a bunch of small packs as well? And as a content creator, this actually wastes my time. I have to type in my password every single time I make a purchase so that my kids don't accidentally spend a bunch of money on stupid games or whatever, because I do let them play with my tablets and I do let them play games, but I don't want them to accidentally spend all my money. So yes, I have to type in my password every single time I have those in-app purchases. But that's not the only reason why this is annoying. Because each purchase is a tax write-off for me as a content creator, every single little purchase, whether it's $2 or $10 or $15 or $20 or even $100, that actually creates more work for me and specifically my wife, because she does the bookkeeping for our business and she has to individually tag every single purchase in our books for our accountant. And like, I know that I am sounding really ridiculous for me to even like complain about this. Clearly not everyone is as big of a spender as I am, and I really recognize that I am super privileged and lucky to be in a position where it actually makes sense for me to spend money on a mobile game. But the whole premium and freemium economy in Clash Mini is just too complex and too confusing, and I would really appreciate some simplicity from it. Honestly, I really like Full Frontage's suggestion in his video a lot, and I think that what they should do is they should just make every premium purchase in the game just cost gems. It's so simple. And then the only time the players would actually have to go and make a purchase in the app is to just buy gems, and then they can use gems wherever they want to. Whether or not they actually add free gems into the game, that's completely up for debate. I do think it would simplify things so that free-to-play players could actually save gems so that they can get a taste of the premium experience when it comes to the mini pass. But as long as every skin or emote or every other piece of content or hero or whatever is eventually unlockable using crystal coins, I'm actually good with them locking gems behind in-app purchases. But please don't do gems as the premium currency and also require in-app purchases unless those extra in-app purchases are discounts off of gems. I know there's so many different ways that different developers will actually take a look at this. I've listened to them all. I've considered them all. That is the simplest and makes the most sense for me as a whale who does spend a lot of money on the game. And honestly, it's just simplicity. Simplicity is just beautiful. Now, as for the actual prices of the premium content, oh boy, I think the Clash Mini team already knows that the community is unhappy with the actual price for the skins. In fact, Frame even talked about this in the stage channel. He knew that the community was going to be outraged by a lot of the skin prices. Like, it's just too much. The Astral Natureborn skin costs $30 US, and the Arctic Mage and Barbarian skins were both sold in a combo pack for $25 US, and individually are each $15 a piece. Now, I'm gonna put a big disclaimer here. Yes, I did purchase both packs without hesitation because I'm a content creator for the game. If I want to make a video where I cover all the skins in the game, I have to own them. So I have to, but that does not mean that I think that you should, and I'm not even going to promote that you guys should. I mean, maybe if there was a creator code in the game. No, I'm totally joking. I'm not gonna let creator code sway my opinion on this. You should not buy the specials even after they put creator code into Clash Mini. I think that the skins that they put into the game are greatly overpriced. Yes, I understand that they have a really high polygon count. Yes, I understand that the Natureborn skin is essentially 2 skins in 1 because of her 2 phases. Yes, I understand that it is the most premium skin in the game to date. It's got a background to it. It's got its own custom music. There's all sorts of cool little things that come along with the skin. But I'm not going to pretend to understand all the decisions behind how much a cosmetic should cost or how much the actual worth of a skin is. I'm not an economist. I'm not a 3D artist. I'm a gamer. I'm a mobile gamer who does not only just play a lot of Supercell games, but also has an overwhelming amount of experience playing freemium games on PC, console, and most importantly, mobile. And the cost of the skins in the most recent update do not match the game's audience, in my opinion. Even if the true value of the skin is $30. A $30 skin in a freemium mobile game like Clash Mini, it's just too expensive. In fact, it's not just a little bit too expensive, it's 2 to 3 times more than what most mobile gamers would consider to be reasonable, even in the wealthy parts of the world like Europe, East Asia, and the US. I actually can't speak too much to East Asia because I've not lived there before. But I have lived in Europe and US, and yes, I do feel like I have that experience to be able to say what most people would consider to be worth it for a mobile game like this. I will be the first to admit that the Astral Natureborn skin, it's a very cool skin, arguably the highest quality skin in the game, and it's fantastic. But even for me, I think the price just should be cut in half. I don't know what the Clash Mini team needs to do to make the prices more reasonable. Maybe they release fewer skins per update. Maybe they just release lower quality skins. Maybe they hire a third-party company to actually do skins. Maybe they just decrease the skin costs and take a loss during beta in hopes of making a profit after the global, and like when they actually have a larger audience and can actually monetize that. I don't know. But whatever they do, I do think that they should actually consider lowering their prices for cosmetics. Surprisingly, I'm actually about to counter myself here by saying that I'm not 100% against Clash Mini releasing overpriced skins, including the Astral Natureborn skin. As a content creator, I recognize that Clash Mini absolutely needs to be profitable in order for the game to go global. It's like they can make an amazing, fun game, but like they can't just do it for free. Like if Supercell just made games for free, guess what? Supercell would go bankrupt and then they couldn't keep making awesome games for us. If they need to release a $30 skin into the game that only the biggest spenders like myself will actually buy so that the game can be free to play for everyone else, personally, I really am okay with that. I have no issues with that, personally, myself. But there's another issue with overpriced skins that I really think the Clash Mini team needs to consider if this is going to be their strategy, and that is player perception. Not everyone is as understanding or aware of the situation as I am. The thing is, cosmetics and skins, you don't have to buy them. It's not going to affect your gameplay. I really do understand that. And I think that a lot of people do as well. But if players generally perceive that the cosmetics are overpriced, then not only will it become very unpopular for them to actually buy anything, so very few people will have skins at all, but then the perception will be that greedy Cell only cares about revenue. Now, as somebody who has personally spoken with, I don't know, maybe like 100 plus Supercell employees, I know that that is not true, right? Those employees, they never talk about revenue. And I know that there are people watching this video right now that think I'm lying, but it's the truth. Supercell as a whole, yes, they need to make money, but that's not their #1 goal. It really is not. But the community's perception of the Clash Mini team is their reality for the Clash Mini team. So even though I'm personally fine with overpriced skins, if the community thinks that the Clash Mini team is being greedy or unreasonable, then guess what? That is their reality. They will view Supercell as greedy and unreasonable, and it's very likely going to negatively impact their opinion of the game. And guess what? They're probably just going to quit playing once they have another game that they can play, because that's just the way the game design is right now. So yeah, I think they should decrease the prices of the skins, and this isn't anything that the developer team hasn't already heard, but those are my 2 cents on it. Interestingly enough, I think I'm actually going to stop showing skins in my videos from this point on. I'm not boycotting it or anything like that. I'm not trying to like take like a political stance or anything like that. I already said that I'm going to continue buying skins for my account. OJ actually mentioned a really good point about the skins in his video, where he said that the skins change the minis so much that they're not immediately recognizable to new players. And after thinking about it, I'm like, you know what, OJ? You're exactly right. I do agree with that. But I don't think that this is actually an issue that needs to be addressed. I like the crazy fun skins that completely change, like even the one that he pointed out, Healing Ranger, that's one of my favorite skins in the game. I don't want them to get rid of it. I don't want to change them it a bit unless they made it even cooler. I think that anybody who isn't playing Clash Mini would definitely be confused by some of the skins because some of them are very different from the original models. But I don't think that that's too confusing for anybody that is playing the game. I really do not. The thing is though, there are lots of people watching my Clash Mini channel that can't even actually play the game. So showing off all my skins in the video is very confusing to them. And as soon as OJ said that, I was like, he's absolutely right. I need to stop showing skins in my videos, at least for now. Once the game's global and everybody can play it, that sounds great. And while we're talking about skins, I do just want to say that I think the artwork in the game is nothing short of incredible. It's a really beautiful game. And the one thing that we do have to realize here is that the Clash Mini team does have to figure out how they can monetize the game, because I know that they are committed to making the game very free-to-play friendly when it comes to actual power, and they would much rather sell cosmetics than power. And I agree with that. I like that. I think that's fantastic. And if they can continue to do that, even if it means spending really crazy skins, I'm good with that. Honestly, while we're talking about skins, I just want to say that the artwork in the game is nothing short of amazing. It's beautiful. I love it. Not just the skins, but like seriously, the environments and stuff, like the boards are just gorgeous. And one of the truths is that the Clash Mini team does have to figure out how to monetize the game in order for the game to go global. So we'll see what they do with that in the future. They're paying attention to it. They're listening to people's feedback, and they seem to have a really good head on their shoulders as far as listening to the community feedback and figuring out what to implement and how to implement it. Now let's talk about the most controversial part of the update. Nerfs to free-to-play progression. I was not surprised at all that the community reacted to this very negatively. Anytime free-to-play progression gets nerfed in any game everywhere in the history of the game, it's met with outrage and frustration for the current players. And why would you expect people to react any differently? I do think the community's reaction was actually justified, but I also think they overreacted. And Chatton made a great video breaking down all the free-to-play progression after the update, and the nerfs, honestly, well, the nerfs were pretty big, but according to his math, and I did watch the entirety of it, and I double-checked all of his math, a completely free-to-play player can max out a hero in about 40 days, which is very reasonable in my opinion. I do think that they didn't need to be quite as harsh as they were with the progression nerfs, but I can genuinely say that I think this was the right decision. And if you are a current player, I really understand why you're so upset. Before the update, you could get max heroes in like a week or two if you were active enough. And now it's gonna take you longer than that. You have the right to be upset. Your feelings are very justified and valid. In fact, the Brawl Stars players were upset when they did the exact same thing to us when Brawl Stars was in beta too. Do you guys remember how many changes Brawl Stars beta had? If you weren't around, it was a lot. There was like 6 of them. But for Clash Mini, just like Brawl Stars, progression was too fast. It was too easy, and that is not healthy for the game. In order for the game to go global, players need a reason to come back to the game. Having progression take longer will help with that. Because here's a hard truth that most gamers don't actually really understand. It only matters a little bit how fun actual gameplay is in a game. If a player doesn't feel a reason to open up an app in the first place, they will stop playing the game for good. And I've absolutely experienced this with Clash Mini myself. My life is busy. I'm creating tons of content for lots of different channels here, and I rarely have time that I can just sit down and play a game for fun. And if I do have time to just sit down and play games for fun, Clash Mini has to compete with Brawl Stars, one of my favorite games, Old School RuneScape, another one of my favorite games, and whichever other game I'm interested in playing right now, because there's tons of awesome games coming out all the time. And because my account is maxed, there's not a big reason for me to open up Clash Mini, because I still have progression that I want to get done in other games. Now, every time I do open up Clash Mini, I get sucked in hard. The game is so good. It's so fun. I really love it. The quests are very satisfying to complete. Clash Mini team, please don't change the quests, well, unless you make them better somehow. I love the quests. I love experimenting with new decks. When I am actively playing the game, it is very hard for me to put the game away, because I just keep telling myself, oh, just one more game, just one more game. I can just do one more game. But eventually I do have to put the game down, and life gets busy and I get distracted with other stuff, and it takes a while before I open up Clash Mini again, since I don't have any progression left to do. And that is Clash Mini's biggest obstacle that they need to overcome if they want the game to go global. Players need more incentive to open up the game in the first place. So slowing down progression, one of the biggest things that the developers actually did right in this update. Sucks for current players, but the current players are a tiny percent of the total population that will play Clash Mini if the game can go global. Now, with all that said, I do feel like they could buff free-to-play progression a little bit, and I do have a suggestion on how they can actually make it more satisfying while also addressing another issue that the game has right now. But let's talk about what that actual issue is first, though. Clash Mini's progression system, way too confusing. This was one of the biggest pieces of feedback that I gave when they first implemented hero shards into the game. I believe it was update 5. It was several months ago. It was a long time ago. And this was the first thing OJ said in his recent video. And pretty much every content creator who responded to OJ's video agreed. It's too confusing. The game has way too many currencies. Gems are the premium currency. That makes sense. Gold is the free currency. Also makes sense. Crystal coins are a secondary free currency, which kind of makes sense as well because they're used for cosmetics, which is free, so I'm good with that. But then there are 5 currencies to upgrade the characters in the game, which is confusing for multiple reasons. First of all, 3 of them only work at certain hero levels and can be traded for each other in the shop, but only once a day and not very much per day. Okay, that's weird, that's confusing. it should be one currency at the most. The second reason why it's confusing is two heroes at the same exact level have different abilities depending on how players spent their skill shards. So like, no, if you see a level 13 Barbarian King, it should be the exact same as somebody else's 13 Barbarian King. I mean, it doesn't have to be. I like customization. I think that's really cool and fun. And when games have really complex progression systems, I like it, but let's not confuse depth with complexity, okay? Things can be overly complex and not actually add very much depth into the game. And honestly, simplicity is way better than complexity. Depth is good. Simplicity is also good. If you can do both with simplicity, then that's fantastic. Anyway, the third issue is that there are different currencies specifically meant for upgrading minis that are not heroes on top of that. That's way too many currencies. 5 for upgrading, it's just a lot. It's really confusing to new players. It's overwhelming to new players. That hurts player retention because players open it up and they're like, I want to upgrade my heroes, but like, I don't know if I should be spending my shards to upgrade my other shards, or should I be upgrading this hero or this one, or like, is it even worth me upgrading my heroes? Should I be spending them into one? Like, it's really confusing and complex, and people eventually just, a lot of the times, just don't make a decision and then they stop playing the game. Now, this is not new news, okay? This is feedback I gave to the developers months ago, and they did respond by saying that they wanted to make it so that things were a little bit more smooth for new players, okay? And I really understand what they mean. With the current system, players will be able to hyper-focus their resources into one hero to get it to a competitive level, but not hyper-focus it so much that they only upgrade one hero, and when that hero gets nerfed, then they just feel like quitting because they're no longer competitive, right? I really understand the concern. It makes a lot of sense. I do. I really think that the developers have showed a really immense amount of an ingenuity that they can come up with something better. And it would be really awesome if they could do it in a way that doesn't hold the player's hands in some way. A simpler progression system would be better. I do have a suggestion. I'm not saying it's the only way that they could do this. Oftentimes I give suggestions and then Supercell comes up with something even better. But here's my suggestion. I feel like gems, they can remain the premium currency. I'm also good with crystal coins being the free currency to be able to get some cosmetics for the most dedicated and patient free-to-play players. But the third thing, and this might be too simple, honestly, I just feel like it would be fine if gold was the progression currency. Gold could be used to unlock new heroes and minis, and gold would be used to upgrade those heroes and minis in addition to their new abilities. Now, honestly, that really could be too simple. If the Clash Mini team wants a little bit more control in how players upgrade their heroes versus their minis, I would be good with them keeping mini shards in the game and to upgrade minis, and then one resource called hero shards, right? To upgrade heroes. But then I think they should further simplify how heroes are upgraded by eliminating skill shards from the game. And honestly, this is nothing the Clash Mini team has not already thought of. They decided to go with a more complex system, and I'm good with them experimenting, okay? They're trying things out. This is beta. The game's not even in global. Like, they wanted to try out new things, and I'm really good with them doing that. I think it's time for them to go with something simpler. Remember when I said that I had a suggestion that could fix multiple issues? The first issue being progression experience not being satisfying enough to bring players back into the game, and the second issue being that I feel like they nerfed the free-to-play progression just a little bit too much. Well, now I've covered a third issue, and that is players need a reason to upgrade all of their heroes. And here's my solution. And it's not too far off of something they already do in the game, honestly. I would love a small progression track for each hero. Nothing complex or extensive as masteries are from like Clash Royale, Brawl Stars. That's not what I'm worried about. I'm just talking about something really simple that could honestly just be a series of small quests that go under the career category of quests. And I got it pulled up right here. It would be like the career, and it would pretty much just be like this: Draft Rumble or New Hero Challenge. Pretty much every hero would have their own thing, and this would actually go away after you completed it. You'd get some progression rewards for playing the hero that aren't too extensive, but would be enough reason to actually keep playing the hero, and there would also be some rewards for upgrading those heroes. Most importantly though, certain minis would be locked behind completing those hero quests. Okay, here's the catch. For example, let's just say the Lumberjack was locked behind the Barbarian King. So in order for you to unlock the Lumberjack, you'd have to complete 10 Barbarian King quests. Some of them could be nice and simple, play the Barbarian King, 50 times, 100 times, whatever. And then some of them would also be get the Barbarian King to level 8. Okay, that way players are they want to unlock that new mini. So they do it whether or not they necessarily want to play the Barbarian King all the time. And then by the time the Barbarian King's at level 8, guess what? Barbarian King is a really high level, and they've played it enough, they've experienced it enough that they can then decide if they want to keep putting resources into Barbarian King or focus on a different hero. Maybe the Giant Skeleton is locked behind the Skeleton King, or the Fisherman is locked behind the Wave Master. I'm not saying that you'd have to completely max out a hero in order to unlock the corresponding mini, not completely maxed out, but like level 8, that's enough. And the progression rewards for the hero tracks, they don't have to be too extensive, but they would also encourage players to like come back, play each hero so that they can complete their collection of minis, which is arguably the most exciting part of the game. Collecting minis is really cool and fun, and I am a big fan of when games do things like this, okay? You might really want the ultimate Archer Queen deck, and in order for you to get the ultimate Archer Queen deck for maybe the current meta is you need the Giant Skeleton. So then you have to complete the Skeleton King questline to unlock the Giant Skeleton. Along the way though, you learn that you really like the Skeleton King, and you want to complete your deck with the Battle Healer. Let's say the Battle Healer really works well with the Skeleton King. It doesn't necessarily, it does. But anyway, then you set a goal to complete the Shield Maiden questline, and it just gets players invested into each hero and gives them a reason to keep playing and coming back for a while, and also helps the free-to-play player progression a bit. And like, I just think that's really cool. It's just an idea. Like I said, the Clash Mini team's probably already thought of this, but if they haven't, maybe it's helpful for you. Now, it would not be fair for me to give the team criticism without covering some of the really big positives in this update. By far, the best part of this update is the new draft events. My word, they are fun. I am addicted to the newest game mode, and I've only played the one that's currently out as I'm recording this, which is the one I was least excited for. Like, seriously, when I should have been working on this video, I couldn't put the game mode down. I had to postpone filming this because I just kept playing one game after another, after another, after another, until I had played for 4 hours straight. In fact, I played right through lunch and forgot to eat, and eventually I got to a point where I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so hungry, I have to put this down because I have to eat. And I'm not even joking, like this actually happened to me. The new game mode is so fun. It was incredibly well made, and like, oh man, and then 6-player draft with bigger boards, it fixed what I consider to be one of the biggest issues of the game that I've talked about in the past, and that was a lack of gameplay depth and complexity. There's just so much to the draft mode. You need to learn how to manage how elixir heavy your deck is. You want to make sure you're drafting the right minis, not just to synergize with your hero, but you also have to pay attention to the minis that your opponents have so that you can counter them. The number of times that I'm like looking at the number one person that hasn't lost a single time, and I'm specifically picking minis to counter that, and the number of times that has turned my whole game around and helped me win, it's awesome. I love it. You're also playing on a bigger board, which does emphasize troop placement skill, which is awesome. Now, there is a little bit of luck involved with the draft, and they can do some things to improve that. Like, for example, if you hit refresh because you didn't want the Giant Skeleton, there is a chance that the Giant Skeleton will come back. I don't know if it's immediately after, but at least 2 rounds after that, there's a chance it'll happen, and that's really annoying and frustrating because, like, I swiped off of the Giant Skeleton. I don't want it. But the thing is, they can fix that. They can improve the draft so it's a little bit less skill-based. But either way, I am convinced that the more skill a player has, the more knowledge of the game they have, they will win. Draft requires a massive understanding of how all of the minis interact with each other, all of the skills that they have and the upgrades that you can pick to counter specific minis and heroes, and like, it's a lot of depth. It's really fun. I really like it. Now, I have not been able to try the double hero draft format or the double hero mega draft yet. Oh man, I'm really excited for that. But it's really brought a lot of excitement to the game, and for me personally, I just love it. And I really think that it is brought the game one massive step closer to global. Also, I can't say how happy I am that the team removed fun boxes from the game. Fun boxes were pretty much gambling for skins, and in my review of the update a few months ago, that was my biggest criticism. They quickly applied the feedback, they got rid of them, which is proof that the team is willing to listen to the community, even when the community wants changes that might decrease revenue for the game. That in and of itself is awesome, and something that not a lot of developers are willing to do, which is another reason why I feel like we're so lucky to have the Clash Mini team. They also removed the Star Exchange, which was something I was seriously wishing for. Now, along with it, they also nerfed progression. I already talked about why that is actually good for the game, but I've talked a lot about why I don't like the Star Exchange, and I'm not going to cover. For those of you guys that don't know what it was pretty much wiping your mini progression for hero progression, and I'm honestly fine with the developers experimenting with weird stuff like that during beta. Like, all for it. That's what beta's for. But I'm also glad they removed it because it felt really clunky and weird, and really, it was weird. Now, mini progression is permanent, and hero progression is more consistent since players actually have a reason to play even after their minis are all maxed out. That was one of the things with the Star Exchange, is once you max out all of your minis, a lot of players lost their reason to actually play in the first place, which was to unlock new minis. So like, now that it's harder to do so, I think that's great. Now, I know that this might sound kind of small, but I really like the music that was added into this update. I don't even think I mentioned mention this in the last update either, but like whoever is composing the music for Clash Mini, they are doing a stellar job. And if one of the developers who is watching this video knows that that person is not watching this video, please go tell them that I think that they're doing fantastic. I come from a musical family. I sing, I play the piano, I know music. They're talented and it's beautiful. Another awesome addition, the newest hero, Natureborn. I am blown away by the complexity that the new hero offers. It all depends on where you place it and stuff like that because of its two different forms. Oh, it's so cool. And I really think it shows off the ingenuity of the developers who came up with the concept. Natureborn is really awesome. It honestly could be my favorite hero in the game. Like, I was a big fan of Countess. Man, I might be team Natureborn now if that's a thing. I mean, it'd be nice if it got buffed a little bit, but you know, I like the Natureborn. I also really like the Bandit. She's really cool. She was actually one of my favorite characters from Clash Royale, and her concept makes sense from different Clash games. She's a great addition to the game. Now, I feel like the team could continue releasing new heroes and minis if they want to, but I think at this point, they need to really start focusing on nailing progression down to something that really works and making sure that the game is monetized enough to be actually profitable. If they want to continue working on heroes and minis and things like that, I'm good with that. But I think honestly, they can continue working on heroes and minis at this point and not release them until global, so they have a stockpile of content saved for once the game goes global, because once game is global, boom, they're going full steam ahead. And if they can buy themselves some additional time with new heroes and minis and stuff like that, I think that would be perfectly fine with me. I want the game to have an explosive beginning, and that would be one way to do it. But before global, they do have quite a few things that they need to finish up, assuming they can nail down free-to-play progression and monetization. And the team is probably already aware of a lot of these things, but the game needs spectate and replays for content creation and esports. They need an ability to join a friendly room outside of your club for friendly drafts. Since I see that being Clash Mini's biggest competitive game mode, I think they should rework raids entirely or even remove them and add progression elsewhere so that they can reintroduce raids at a later point when it actually makes sense long term for the game, so the players aren't going to be bored. Or maybe even make raids, I don't know, there's a lot of things they could do with it. I would not be against them just removing it and coming back to raids at a later time. Also, they need to figure out a way to make the top 1 percentile happy with the competitive state of the game. 1% of the player base seems like a small population to cater to, but they are also the game's most dedicated, most passionate, and usually the most vocal. So making that top 1 percentile, even though they're small, and even though the game is generally for casual players, I understand that, the top 1 percentile, they need to be happy. And making them happy will have a huge positive impact on the community's overall perception of the game, because like I said, they're the most passionate, they're the most dedicated, and they have the loudest voices. I also think there's a lot of fluff that they could remove from the game to make the game feel a little bit more fast-paced and a little bit less like a waiting game. For example, there's about a 1 to 2 second wait after you hit the refresh button in a draft before the next minis are actually shown. That should be instant. You should hit refresh and they should just go pop, new minis right there. There shouldn't be a little spinning animation. The spinning animation is cool. Don't do it in draft. If I got 5 seconds left to go and I want to draft or a new mini, I don't want to have 2 of those seconds wasted in waiting for that animation. Additionally, there's way too much waiting in draft and rumble. Okay, and I don't know the logistics behind what's happening behind the scenes of the game and what it's calculating and how it's matchmaking which players and stuff like that. But as soon as your match is over, you should be able to start placing down minis, or at least in my opinion, be given the option to. And once your minis are all down and you're ready to up, you should be able to look through the opponents and see how they've placed their minis in previous rounds so that you can see what they are and see how things are going to go. Also, if your round finishes earlier because you just completely stomped the opponent or they stomped you, you should be able to watch the other teams competing so that you can actually adjust your strategy appropriately. Maybe like, you know, you can see that somebody has a bunch of minis and the other team is losing them, but you don't know what those minis are. Maybe they've got a level 3 witch, maybe they don't. We should be able to look at that and see that, just so that while we're waiting, there's less waiting and there's more thinking about strategy and planning ahead and stuff like that. There's honestly just like a lot of little optimizations I think that they could and they should do. And maybe the amount of time actually doesn't necessarily need to decrease, but the amount of time doing nothing or not having an option to do anything, that should be decreased. We need the perception to be that this is a fast-paced game, right? And I know that this is a lot of polish, and I think the team is already aware of this, but that goes a long way once the game's in the hand of 1 million players. 1 second wasted might not be much for one individual person, but 1 second wasted to 1 million players is 11 days and 12 hours of wasted time. And I really think the game has a lot of untapped potential when it comes to removing wasted time. At the end of the day, when I play Clash Mini, it's super hard to put away because I think it's just so much fun. The new draft format, I think, added a lot of complexity into the game, or depth to the game. That's a good thing. And it has brought the game one big step towards global. Even the progression nerfs brought the game another step towards global with this update, but the game still needs some changes before it's going to be ready. Honestly, right now, I feel like what they really need to do is just continue trying to nail down a simpler, more satisfying progression experience that keeps players coming back to the game, and some quality of life improvement updates while they start to build up a reserve of post-global content. And as long as they can do that and work on monetization somehow, you know, I think it's going to be good. I don't think it's going to happen very soon, but I do think I could see a Clash Mini global launch sometime this year. Now, before I end this video, I just want to touch on one thing I haven't really seen many people talk about, and that is how many obstacles the Clash Mini team has really overcome during the game's development. Supercell has some of the highest quality standards for their games, and the community knows it. So the community holds them by a very high standard. Not only does everyone expect the Clash Mini team to reach those standards, but they've also had a year and a half of public scrutiny for every little thing since the game went into beta, and they have handled it like freaking champs. On top of that, they're not even located in Finland like Supercell traditionally has been. They're kind of separated from their Finnish brothers during one of the hardest times of the year, COVID. And guess what? The Clash Mini team is developing the game in China during COVID, which means that they've had to work from home in an area with some of the longest and strictest quarantine regulations throughout the entire world. Yes, I think they made some mistakes along the way, but that is to be expected when they're experimenting with all sorts of different things during beta of a game that's never been developed before, trying all sorts of new things that has never been happened before, and they have already shown that they are willing to listen to community feedback and improve things based off of our feedback. And honestly, they've really shown incredible ingenuity and creativity, and I absolutely love listening to them talk about the game because their passion is so obvious and contagious. They care. They're very humble. They've done incredible work under very difficult conditions, and I really think they've earned some trust and patience from us. And I honestly would much rather have them experiment with things right now so that the game can be super popular and so that we can feel good about the direction after the game is launched globally. So let's just all take a deep breath, enjoy the 6-player draft mode, because honestly, it's a blast. And that's all I've got to say, except for one thing. Frame, I'm sorry, I know that you wanted this into like 16 different little mini bite-sized videos where I specifically talk about individual things, but it's not what my audience wants. One video, here you go. So I hope it's helpful for you. And honestly, if you're watching at this point in the video, you deserve a gold star. I hope you enjoyed it. I'd really love to know what your guys' thoughts are, so let me know in the comment section below, and make sure you include hashtag #minilove in your comments so that I know that you actually watched the whole thing. Make sure you subscribe for more awesome Clash Mini news, opinions, feedback, gameplay, whatever, and check out my other Clash Mini content right here. For now, this is KairosTime ticking by. We will see you in Clash Mini.